And as South Africa faces a national water crisis, the shift from reactive to proactive management has never been more urgent than it is at this stage. A considerable number of households are currently experiencing outages lasting days. So what mechanisms should be used to conserve such a vital natural resource is what we ask at this hour. And can technology also act as a catalyst in the water conservation process? Let's rope in now Rudie Opperman, who's the Manager for Engineering and Training at Access Communications. Now he specialises in scalable technologies and cost-effective measures adapting for South African conditions. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Opperman. Perhaps let's start here with a bit of context and how can digital tools really provide real-time monitoring, and this would be to detect leaks and pressure changes before a total supply failure occurs, as we are seeing at this stage.
Yes, good morning to you and your viewers. We are coming from a position of saying that, you know, in what we can see happening in the world today is businesses and governments are getting more connected and using technology more and more to turn real life moments into data. And this data, of course, gives them insight to make decisions. So when we bring it closer to water, the way we understand the problem today, it's a big problem. There's many factors here, but certainly one of them could be not having visibility of all the different, the critical infrastructure and everywhere. And when you cannot manage what you cannot see. So we're coming from a position where surveillance devices, monitoring devices can use computer vision with the use of AI to generate insight, to generate data of as it is happening in real time. And one can also monitor the infrastructure, not necessarily having to drive there, sit in traffic and be there, but also monitoring all of that from a central location. But that's just the beginning. One step from there up could then be when these systems are starting to generate data about pressure, about the flow, about all the different conditions inside a water treatment infrastructure, one can then get a clear understanding of what's happening. And with AI, you get anomaly detection, you get preventative measures become more reality because you can spot patterns, you can pick up something that does not operate within the expected limit. And this gives the city planners and all the decision makers the necessary information that's based on data that can help them spend the money wisely. But ultimately, the problem today is big. There's no quick fix, but I think one needs to, first of all, start to understand what the situation is, what's happening, so you can focus where it's best needed. And hopefully later one can get into a long-term planning cycle where prevention becomes much better than just responding to crisis. And this can only be done with investment of smart technology, as we are seeing other governments doing across the world as well.
And I know you just touched on problems. You know, this also points over to weaknesses. What are some of those weaknesses in our water managing infrastructure that have led us to this point where we're not able to actually nip those problems in the bud before they become so grand?
It is my understanding that we're dealing with an aging infrastructure. Of course, there are. I've heard some of the commentators say that more than 30% of treated water is being wasted. Now, if you think about that, that's water that's already been treated. There's energy that's been already used to treat it. So it's a big loss. It's not just the water that's being lost. It's also the wasteful energy that's gone into treating it. So I think one of the biggest things that we need to deal with is why is this water going to waste? It's not generating an income, so there's no income that could be spent on future systems to improve as we are speaking now. So I think the number one problem is to find and to avoid 30% of the treated water to go to waste. And now that creates a problem because now we're seeing in the news cycle now people are responding to crisis, so which is very important. And water is being delivered to communities that desperately need it. And of course, this is what we are dealing with now. But when you get into this predictive maintenance and having visibility and limiting the amount of waste and leakage, then one can shift your focus by a very collaborative approach with the city planners, with the city engineers, like-minded organizations like myself that have an understanding of technology. It definitely calls for a collaborative approach with people that are closer to the problem, and then one can really start to invest the money so we don't deal with this in the future.
And also this then now speaks to a need, and that need would be to modernize aging infrastructure. Just how do we go about navigating the complexities of upgrading legacy systems that were never designed for digital monitoring to make them fit for purpose?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, of course, one cannot rip out everything and replace it with the latest. What we have seen recently is where surveillance cameras are being used to monitor old analog gauges with a dial on the front. And you can use a camera to turn that reading of a temperature or a flow or anything, you can turn it into a digital value quite easily by using a camera and smart analytics. This is just one example. So there are ways to bridge the gap between old technology using analog technology and what you're trying to do is digitize the reality so you can measure it and you can predict anomalies. So there are ways to do this, and surveillance technology can help here.
And much has been said, about the various water departments. Most of them have been criticized for being reactive other than being proactive. This also now takes us to that important point of maintenance. How do we really use data to plan accordingly, to plan maintenance before damage is done? This would also be to ensure that we reduce the massive water losses that is, currently draining municipal budgets at this stage.
Yeah, I think it starts with having a full visibility of what's happening in real time. And of course, sensors and sensing technology can give you this real-time situation. And this could be monitored from a central location. So having an understanding, having visibility, you cannot manage what you cannot see. So the investment into monitoring technology, various types, and having them work as one system to provide data and insight and dashboards. That's step one. And from there, of course, these systems can then harness AI and analytics to pick up patterns, to recognize anomalies. When this happens, then that will happen. So then one can start to get into a predictive maintenance cycle.
And that would also mean that we need the right skills as well as people with the know-how to ensure that nothing is left to chance, which is why I want us to also talk about the skills gap. Now, how do we address the critical need for teams who can interpret data and act on intelligent insights to keep water flowing? Because we've had people who are working for these departments but have not really been able to be forthcoming with some of these groundbreaking solutions that we talk about, just to ensure that we have the right people that are at the right positions to ensure that they're able to use some of these grand inventions that come out to be a problem solver for most of us.
Yeah, that is such a good point. When you start using technology, and of course you then need the youth to be trained in schools and after schools in tertiary education. There are many training programs. We also run such a program ourselves. We want to educate the workforce so they know how to maintain, how to install, how to interpret the data. So it also solves another problem. It definitely helps with job creation as well. Technology is there to help us, and this could definitely help us skill young people for the future. So we can do what others are already doing. I'm also, my sphere of influence is also in the Middle East. And I can see governments there are using technology in an amazing way to do similar things than what we are talking about now. So others have done it. We can certainly learn from them.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much for your time and insights on the program this hour. Rudie Opperman is the Manager for Engineering and Training at Access Communications. Thanks so much for your time indeed.